Hi guys, Jake and MJ, back again for more live reactions to Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Throw them away. There we go.
Hey!
Alright, everything all good in the chat this week, hopefully?
Can you hear us?
Ah! So apparently there is a moment of lag. That's gotta be an interesting loop. Sorry about that. I thought I turned off the volume on that. Actually, I never thought the volume was on at that.
I didn't know the volume was on at that.
It probably shouldn't have been. Huh, interesting.
Oh well. Technical difficulties.
A lot of times, my school laptops have weird sound settings that don't make any sense. Alright, so I hope that everybody had a fantastic Halloween. We had a pretty good time this week. Very busy. I organized a bunch of events through the school to make it for a good Halloween week with the students, and it was Spirit Week overall for the school as well.
Chris Taylor dressed up as a crossing guard.
Oh, cool.
I dressed up on Halloween Day as a vampire.
Yes, and I did.
You were a ghoulie.
I was kind of just...
You look like the Crypt Keeper.
All Crypt Keeper-ish. I just went with some generic ghoulish makeup and a nice suit. I also...
Vac, that sounds like a fantastic idea.
Okay.
Vac has seen the whole season and is volunteering as a moderator.
Okay. Yeah, it never occurred to me that was a thing we could do. Sure.
Vac is a guy we trust.
But yeah, I was Doc Brown on the day before Halloween because that was character day at the school. Yeah, it was fun. For those of you who watched our Sentai live reaction on Wednesday, you got to see the preview of my Doc Brown outfit before I put in all the hair white.
Go to his channel URL.
All right, you doing okay?
I got it.
Okay. All right, so. Anybody else have some cool Halloween costumes that they dressed up for? Dressed up with? Dressed up as? Insert appropriate preposition here. Trying to reposition this a little bit so I can see things a little better. But somehow it made it so I see things worse. So I'm just going to resize that back to the way it was. Alright. But yeah, I managed to get the students to put together a haunted house event in the library. I did spooky stories using my my landlord voice as a narrator voice for like Edgar Allan Poe short stories, and
it was Sans Wrinkles, but with Hawaiian shirt. So,
for the Back to the Future. Yeah.
I
just
there's a little bit of a cross between 1 and 2.
Yeah, I did white hair, the welding goggles, lab coat, and Hawaiian shirt. So I used obviously Dr. K's lab coat because that's what we have. All right, so the Beast Morphers, Beast X Morpher to go as a civilian.
You know how I went as a vampire? I put in T.
The landlord voice was the one that the kids asked for. Like they don't know about the landlord as a character
because they don't know about this channel. They haven't found it yet.
But I gave them a few different options. I asked, okay, would you prefer this voice or more this voice or more this voice? And they all decided they liked the
first one.
The first one the best. And I was using that over the PA system on and off throughout the day, so that reverberated nicely throughout the school. So that was a lot of fun. Cool.
Oh, and I got my nose pierced.
Yes, that also happened this week. So we've had a busy week.
Technically, this happened before the last live reactions, but because I was dressing up as Marty, I pushed it up for my nose so we wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
But after the last live reactions.
But yeah, when the guidance counselor during the morning meeting asked me to if I could explain who I was when I was as Doc Brown. I'm just like, because not everybody knew who I was. I'm like, these kids! We gotta do something about these kids! And when another student asked who I was supposed to be, I'm like...
And you said...
I said, clearly a demonstration of your lack of culture, sir.
They're too young, they haven't seen Back to the Future. I posted your picture on the Discord that I spend, like, 90% of my day on.
Yeah.
It's for a whole other fandom. And a 14-year-old from Germany knew who you were. 15.
There we go. There we go. Alright, so it's looking like our chat is filling up nicely.
I'm hoping to get a shorter barbell after it heals. It hangs a little low.
Now, I will say that, unfortunately, I have not had time for editing this week, or filming this week, because I had so much to do for the Spirit Week, and next week is the last week of the quarter when our grades are in. Now, that being said...
Next week is the last week of the quarter.
So hopefully I can get some more stuff in after that. I'm going to try. And we do have a 3-day weekend coming up, so that is promising.
Isn't that so often, Cody, that I kept accidentally calling him Dr. Scott instead of Doc Brown?
Which is a very different character.
Very different character.
Alright.
Scott has no neck!
So, I think that now is a good time to jump into episode 15 of Power Rangers Beast Morphers, Seeing Red.
Oh, angels in the outfield.
Watch your step, bro.
Oop, there we go.
Hey, Devin.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Ah,
General Burke's
it was a
birthday.
good birthday surprise.
It's vanilla, his favorite.
Okay.
And you're about to wreck it.
Here we go. Whoa, 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 whoa.
Catch it!
Nice catch. Whoosh. You know, whoosh.
Well done. Seriously though, who actually robs a bank like that? Literally no one.
Whoa, wait. Is he gonna use Fury mode?
Well, no, but he still has to hide.
Yeah, no, he is using Fury mode.
He is using Fury mode.
Because he was looking at the Fury bracelet instead of his
Oh! Really?
You know what? That was actually kind of funny.
That police officer is a jerk.
Oh yeah. Whoa.
There was plenty of room behind him. He could have gone behind him instead of in between them.
You're not going anywhere, thief.
Nice.
What's going on? This criminal's held up in traffic. Get it? Thank you, Red Ranger, but please put that car down. I'm helping you. You take care of Robotrons and Gigadrones, and I'll deal with the criminals, okay? What?
This is fair.
Sector Bravo 68. Okay, you take it from here, officer.
Do you remember the car driver that Vulcan Skull fought?
I remember. Yes. Yes. Yes, that was
Sorry, who was it for?
that was season 3 with the.
And not only was he doing it in broad daylight, he actually had on a ski mask, and the money was in canvas bags.
Yeah, follow that cab. That was it.
Not even a duffel bag. Canvas money bags.
That was a very large canvas bag.
I'm the star of my own video game.
He is really getting into that armor. Roxy is just chillaxing all cool.
Is she about to make a
candle?
A candle. Interesting. I thought she was going to go for the strawberry.
Nah, I remember that.
Hey, Lumiere.
Oop, Fury Cell.
He's got a lighter. He's got his own lighter. He's a candle with his own lighter.
Oh, the Fury Cell is limited power.
I'll take that.
Nice.
My Fury Cell!
That was too easy.
Whoa.
Look at that. Out of Fury energy already.
That's interesting.
Thanks. Just in the nick of time.
Interesting.
Hey, doesn't that mean you should probably use it sparingly?
Apparently.
Just try me now. Gladly. Not quite.
Devin Daniels equals Miles Morales 2.0.
Chance against all 5 of us. Devin!
Yeah, he's getting...
That is what Lumiere would be like as a Power Rangers villain.
Yeah. He's getting very much into using his new powers.
Yeah, and he's got a limited amount of them, so he really should be a bit more discerning about when he uses them.
Yeah.
If you can handle the candle without them, then maybe you should.
Striker Saber, charge!
I was gonna... Oh. Is this already it? It's just funny coming out of Steel.
Yeah.
I'm good. So much fired up!
Ugh, that's enough. I'm calling a timeout.
That's fair.
Chickens! That was something, wasn't it? Yeah. Something, alright. Huh? What's wrong, guys? To start with, you messed up our attack.
Plus, you were kind of late.
Well, nothing bad happened. Luckily, when the Fury cell burnt out, I just snagged a new one. Interesting. Seems that every time you use Fury mode, it uses a part of the cell. You better be careful, Devin. Even that new one won't last forever. Relax. With this awesome power, Evox is on the ropes. Now, who's thirsty? Let's hit the riptide. You guys go. I have some lab work to do.
Yeah, I gotta figure out what's up with this burnout cell and if I can recharge it.
Hey, man.
I don't know, maybe it's sticky? Not the cell, but the pad that he sticks it on.
Devin stole another Fury cell and then beat the stuffing out of you and your Robotron?
Hey, you lost the first one, Blaze!
Yes, the Red Ranger beat me. But his new powers have made him different. He's reckless.
It's true.
You're just as reckless. Another of my Fury cells wasted. But the truth is, the cells will slowly turn even a noble warrior evil. So,
Oh.
make that Red Ranger evil forever.
We have one Fury cell left.
Then make sure that the Red Brat uses it on himself again.
Nice. Probably would have been good information for them to have beforehand. Oh, we're finally getting that too. Okay.
Spirit gum and a lot of prayers. I think he meant in universe, but yeah.
Rangers, wow, wow, go go Power Rangers, it's morphin' time. For justice we fight with Beast Morphin' might. Together we rise. Wow, 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 wow. Go go Power Rangers.
Bubblegum.
Go go Power Rangers. Power Rangers Beast Morphers.
Vulcan Skull does some amazing things with
Blast
Bubblegum.
off this morning with brand new Loud House and Casa Grandes.
See, that was a suitably placed act break, I think. We've been a little bit spotty on our placement on the act
Is
break,
that like
I think, recently.
It is. Space Ghost.
Yes.
It ate my Whopper!
And
Weird.
fantastic.
It's a Whopper.
Sweet.
Don't miss all new Loud House followed by brand new Casa Grandes. Today at 11.
Loud House and Big House.
You're watching
But yeah, we've had a tendency towards odd first act breaks the last couple times. Oh, Sonic has deep fried Oreos. Interesting.
Okay, so apparently emoting too much
Yeah.
with the ring not tucked up
Yeah.
makes me feel like I'm gonna sneeze.
Right.
Left behind. Hey guys!
Oh, they have the same thing.
For a party like no other. Fire in the hole! You sunk my battleship.
Watching Power Rangers with closed captioning? We do.
Sometimes, yeah.
What's inside? Oh,
But yeah, like, what was it, last week?
I'm actually a big fan of closed captioning. Half of the time, it's noticeably wrong.
But we've had like weird positioning on some of the act breaks, like with the Halloween episode where we had already one Ranger returned to normal before we even went to the opening credits, and that kind of felt like it undercut the drama of the episode. Even though it was a Halloween episode and it was very goofy, they weren't going for heavy drama, it still kind of undermined things.
You look at these things as Banana Blast, or Don't Wake Granny, or Crocodile Dentist. They're all basically just a random number generator.
Yeah. And there was the first Tubatron episode where like they threatened Blaze for for the first act break, which was like, okay, is this gonna go anywhere? And then it didn't.
Jack in the Box.
Okay, I lost track of what you were. Wait, where'd the slow Jack in the Box come from?
Crocodile Dentist.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm like, it took me a moment to parse out where that trail was, because I was saying where Tubatron was threatening Blaze, or a very slow Jack in the Box. And I'm like, wait, what? Okay. But yeah, and then the following act break in the first Tubatron episode, they had Tubatron threatening the Rangers after he had already been clearly deprived of his upgrade. But in this one, it worked out well because we've spent this whole first act actually establishing what the threat is, and that's what we cut into. Yeah.
See what you did there.
Starts tomorrow. So when they actually use the long cold open / first act to actually properly set up a conflict without giving us premature resolution, it's always very nice. So I like how they handled that this week.
Come on.
He's in a rush.
Yep.
Have you guys noticed that Devin's been acting a bit, strange?
If by strange you mean self-absorbed and totally rude, then yeah.
Hey, team. Here's our drinks.
What's happening? Oh, he wants to get in on a fight.
I'll be right back.
Are you kidding me? There's a class going on over there.
He's just all amped up right now on those Fury cells. I'm really curious to see what. That's interesting.
I had this popped up for work and pulled it down just before we started, and I think that's why it's being irritated right now.
It's interesting that the Fury cell is draining even though he's not actively using it.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't be wearing it though.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
It's a replacement cake.
Dad's gonna love this cake.
Oh, this one's gonna go. This one's gonna go so fast. And you know what? This is.
It's gonna be his fault too.
Yeah. You know what? Oh.
Hey, watch the cake,
Now.
Whoa! Great moves!
And there it goes.
What's wrong with Bo?
You're using
You sat in the cake, didn't you?
It fell on your seat. No.
No. Okay, now you see, this is actual, like, the type of physical comedy I find acceptable. We're not trying to do cartoon physics. This is actual slapstick comedy and how slapstick comedy works.
Game, set, match.
He's treating everything like a game. Why is the Fury cell draining so quickly now? Ooh.
We need to go now.
But I'm just warming up. Come on, dude. Okay.
And nobody's like, why is that guy
This is
hanging
a
out with
simulation
robots?
based on Devin's DNA. I took a hair sample earlier today.
You took my hair.
You've been acting a little strange.
It's the Fury cell, isn't it?
They're affecting your brain function.
Humane responses are being stripped away and replaced with something more primal. The Fury cell is making you kind of bad.
Impossible. I feel great. I've been helping people.
Like this police officer?
Well, okay. So I might be a little bit more aggressive, maybe. But I'm not hurting anyone. except Robotrons.
The effect could be permanent. Devin, you've got to take it off.
No way! This Fury Cell is our best chance to defeat Evox for good.
You can't do this on your own.
You don't even have a plan.
You're hurting the team.
Oh, really? Well, then maybe I don't need a team. What? You won't help me? Then I'll do it without you. Just watch. Devin!
He walked away very slowly.
Should we stop him?
I think it's okay for
Devin,
now.
we brought you here today
There isn't
because
much
your
left of that
family's
Fury
worried
Cell.
about you.
It won't be enough to turn him evil forever.
Let's just hope it's the last one. Tronics in Sector Tango 5.
Hey!
Move out.
Tronics!
Random bridge girl gets another line. It's always delightful to see.
Devin, ever since you've been doing power crystals, you've been different.
Like, they're handling things pretty well, I think, right now with this. Also, one nice thing with the 4-person morph is that you do get to see each one a lot more easily than when you have, like, 3 or 5. They actually got split up on the screen nicely so I could see the full look of all of them.
This is actually handling addiction better than Saved by the Bell.
I'm so excited! I'm so excited! Very meme-worthy, but I also have not seen the actual full context of that episode.
Oh, you haven't?
Or if I have, I do not recall.
I
was
used to
never-
watch that show as a kid.
I was never big into Saved by the
You were
Bell.
never big into Saved by the Bell? I was, which is why the
This
YouTube...
fairy cell's more than a match for you.
Oh no, another cell! Stop blabbering and power me up! We gotta destroy that cell.
That's rude.
Now I will power up this Robotron with the very last Fury Cell.
Not so fast! That cell is
She's
mine.
telegraphing it so hard.
She really was. She's like.
Just selling it.
She really wanted to make sure that he got it.
Like I said, I can do this without you.
Wait, where's your current
You're
Fury Cell?
making a mistake!
Just listen.
I'm done with talking.
Oh, there it is.
Wait! That's enough!
So yeah, I watched a lot of Saved by the Bell as a kid, and as a result, I really enjoy the videos. There's a video series out there,
Oh, this is. We got red versus blue fight going on now.
which is basically all
Oh, this is.
original footage too.
Yeah, because Fury mode's an original form.
Exactly. No, a video series which is basically
Nice.
all a takedown of how much of a jerk Jack Morris is to his friends.
Oh, blue's overheating.
Get off, Robbie. Even your gorilla's strength isn't enough to stop my fury mode.
Oof. Oh. Okay, so he's just forcibly demorphed.
The cell.
I thought.
You'll love being evil.
Please,
I'm not sure what you're asking.
What's.
give me the cell, Robbie.
Oh. Yeah, he's getting intense.
Oh, yeah, no, if you're saying,
Your Saturday plans are a
oh,
no-brainer.
okay, I guess she's asking if she thinks the
That's a
future
brand new Harry Danger. The alien presence
actors
is
should be
making me
forced to take an oath they forever be grateful to the fandom if the Dino Thunder team won't come back for a team up. And no, I don't think that should be a thing at all.
I don't quite know what that means, but I'm gonna say, generally speaking,
I wasn't sure what she meant by oath of gratitude.
I don't think that oaths should be required of actors.
No actor should ever have to take an oath for any reason.
Like, I recognize there's like a contract to engage in, but like,
they're not civil servants.
Well, it's not even. It's like.
Like you take if you're the police, you take an oath to serve and protect your community. But again,
Yeti in my spaghetti.
It's kerplunk.
Yeah. Why is there a Yeti in your spaghetti? Why is it so small? Is this a baby Yeti? Is the mother coming? Is that the threat of this game? Those are my questions regarding the Yeti in your spaghetti.
Sets all separately. Base plates and backgrounds not included.
Let's play Gator Golf.
But yeah, hopefully this will mark the conclusion of the whole data chip Beast Powers arc, is what I'm kind of expecting at this point. And I think it's nice that they're tying those
Oh, they do
together
kind of
with
remind
the
me of
Fury
Z
Cell
crystals,
thing.
especially the way they go into a gauntlet and all that.
I have no idea what a Z
It's a
crystal
Pokemon
is.
thing.
Well, I have no idea what that. I know Pokemon is.
It's a Pokemon Moon and Beyond thing.
What do they put what crystals and gauntlets?
They stick a crystal in their gauntlet to power up the Pokemon into a Mega Moon.
That's a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were a little
I'm sorry, I was... How about now?
Yeah.
See, this is why I want to get a shorter one, because if
There's
it's shorter,
Louise.
it won't have as far to go to get crooked. Plus, when I throw my lip, it won't touch.
I was watching a little Let's Play of that on while I was doing grading, and it was looks like it's an enjoyable game, even though I'll probably never find an opportunity to play it.
Okay,
I never find time to play
that's kind of adorable.
That is true.
Constructing all the evolutions.
Little constructible Pokemon. Honestly, that feels overdue.
Did somebody finally make a cheaper generic American Girl?
Journey Girls? I guess
Is that
so.
what these Journey Girls are?
That's what they look like. They look like little tiny versions.
It's totally galactic.
Yeah, Joseph Katz is saying that he feels like this episode is the end of the second act of the season, and it does seem to be setting itself up that way. The first act was kind of the lead up to the reveal of the Gold Ranger. The second act does seem to be this lead up to whatever they're trying to do with the Beast Powers.
Only 6 episodes left of the season after this.
Including the Christmas episode, yeah.
Which Ridiculous Soup says probably won't be canon.
No, we'll see. You never know. I generally assume every episode to be canon. Even if it's not necessarily in the same order of continuity.
Ugh.
Dude.
Time to refill. And not a moment too soon.
Dude, don't. Come on, don't do it.
What am I doing?
Okay.
This Fury energy.
Jake doesn't watch Pokemon anime, so he might be a little bit confused if X and Y is any kind of continuation of the regular.
I'm hurting my friends.
But X and Y was like a whole other world, though, wasn't it? So was that a separate?
Oh.
These Fury cells are evil.
He just broke it.
A separate continuity?
Here, take them.
Which one's a separate continuity? Whoa!
I'm asking if X
Whoa,
and
whoa,
Y
what just happened?
He threw them at Roxy.
What did that... It looked like they went into her.
It did.
I've got you, man.
That's
I'm so
cool.
sorry.
Maybe it's gonna turn her
That Fury
purple.
energy made me,
Maybe.
well, I wasn't myself. It's good to have you back, buddy. Come here.
Yeah, he managed to keep him busy long enough that apparently when the other one drained fully, he was able to regain his thoughts again.
Freaking Santa Claus is in the most recent Christmas episodes. You don't consider them canon. Santa has been a canon character in the MMPR since season 2 since Kisaragi, and they are correct.
Season 2? Well, I guess that's if you count Alpha's Magical Christmas. Which was never shown as an episode.
Let's get him to the med bay.
Sorry, Sorry, Commander.
Hey! It's been a while since we've seen you.
Thanks for coming back.
How you doing, Smash?
Gigadrone detected.
Your headcanon said those exist. Well, in your headcanon, those are not canon episodes. And I can only respect the headcanon because, frankly, Jake and I still have a disagreement about which universe RPM is in.
I go with the alternate timeline as has been presented by the show itself. Now, true, I do go a little bit more in depth and have it be an offshoot timeline rather than a full alternate universe, but you don't subscribe to either of those versions.
No, I like it in the same universe.
Yes, which has been explicitly demonstrated as.
And that's why I have to respect the person who doesn't believe the Santa Claus episodes are canon.
There we go.
And Kane is referring to the episode where Zed invades the North Pole.
That was a season 3 episode when Zed invaded the North Pole because Rito was in that one. I'm Dreaming of a White Ranger. Whew. I do like it whenever they use the animal modes. Oh no! Melting down the Morph-X tower. Well, I know, this episode is number 15, however, it is our 16th live reaction, that's why I have it noted as 16. Yep.
Uh-oh. Is that like a Charmander if the flame goes out? Does he die?
Well, he's about to. This monster was never really given any chance to demonstrate any particular power.
Now let's help Devin with the other one.
You two go. My energy's low. I need a carrot ASAP.
Okay.
That's fair.
Commander.
By the way, this is the first time we've seen their weaknesses in a while.
That's
She
true.
complained about a carrot, and Blue was holding a fan earlier.
Yeah, and he got drained, and he got forcibly demorphed because he got overheated. Although I was hoping that we were going to see his Gorilla Berserker aggression against Fury mode, which would have been great. I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity, but I still did rather like that fight.
Striker Megazord, combine!
Ninja! Yes, Ninja.
Yes. Striker Megazord.
Striker Megazord, unleashed! We'll finish him, Devin.
There we go.
This one's all yours, guys.
And this makes a nice bookend to him interrupting their finisher earlier in the
Yeah,
episode.
now they get to finish off. Or the Robotron in this case. Or not, Gigatron.
I thought real
Just
heroes
one
don't
more fire to
explode.
put out.
Didn't they turn around? You have to send someone out to repair that tower.
Eliminated.
Yep.
I apologize for the sound of our neighbors absolutely thundering up the stairs.
How dare those Rangers destroy another of my beautiful Gigadrones! They'll get what's coming.
Dude, that's what you gotta expect. You make a Gigadrone, they break a Gigadrone.
The Fury cells are finished, and this data chip is all you have to show for it? Huh? Still, it's the last piece we've been waiting for. Cheetah, Gorilla, Jackrabbit.
Let's see what
These powers
happens.
will be mine.
Really? As if.
I mean, she did do all the
Rangers are
work.
still standing, and Devin's as much of a goody two-shoes as ever. You failed.
So you think Evox will give the upgrade to you?
Hey, go bicker somewhere else. I need to concentrate. But I assure you that whoever gets it, the results will be devastating.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, Roxy did do
Someone get
all the
those
work.
two a new cake, please.
Are you sure about that?
There we go. Good job, Devin.
I'm really sorry about the last one, guys. But I baked this one myself. And I thought you could write a message for your dad on it. Wow,
Don't. Why are you handing them that? Don't hand them that. That's not going to go well.
Look, hopefully they'll be fine. They'll be fine. The cake will be fine. They'll get frosting all over each other, but the cake will be fine. Hopefully.
It could have been a disaster if you didn't stand up to me. I don't know how I can make it up to you.
It was a close call, but we're all okay. None of us would ever give up on you. We're a team.
Always.
That's what's important.
Hey, General Burke.
Ice faster! I'm trying!
No, don't.
Do not ice faster.
Thanks. And, well done today, team.
No.
My icing's blocked! Now, I've heard my kids have a birthday surprise for me.
And here we go.
I told you the cake would be fine.
Sorry, Dad.
Happy birthday?
Why, I never
Saw such a beautiful cake.
tasted such delicious icing.
Of course.
Maybe you should try some.
You know what?
Yeah. Icing fight. Okay, sure, why not? That was cute.
You know what? Dad was happy.
Yeah. A little bit of
Season
Beast
is starting to
Morphers.
develop an identity. Yep.
Yeah.
Season 2, Mayor Daniels gets a dog. When was the last time we saw Mayor Daniels?
I don't know. No, I do know. Episode 5, I believe.
We need something bigger and stronger that Evox has never seen.
I look forward to seeing this.
Watch out for brand new Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Saturday mornings at 8.
I'm really thinking the smart thing to do here...
Hey, I just paused you. Stop that.
I'm thinking the smart thing here to do would be, at least from a footage perspective, give the upgrade to Roxy so that you can use footage of the purple suit.
It feels like that's where... I feel like that was the point of her getting hit with those Fury Cells. I feel like that's going somewhere.
Yeah.
Her getting hit with the Fury Cell shards... Like, I could be wrong, but that felt significant.
It is so wholesome the way he plays along. I agree, Beck.
Yeah. Something about the way General Burke's actor performs is always just a little bit off.
Yeah.
It's like he really, is playing up that he is an actor acting in an acting job.
He is a large ham.
He is.
He is a ham that's fit to be canned.
But it's also just like, nobody talks that way.
Did Ben and Betty's dad play a role in Ninja Storm?
A role in Ninja Storm? I believe so. I believe somebody was able to identify him in I think it may have been a Ninja Storm episode. I need to go through, the Rolodex that is my brain to narrow down which episode.
Frankie can't.
Frankie's face is just buried in the couch right now.
So our cat has a particular variant on loafing where he not only loafs but also tucks his face in like he's fake. He's gone past face palm and into face desk.
He's smashed his face into the
couch
couch.
like it was ugh. It doesn't look cozy. It looks like face desk. But he sleeps that way.
But yeah, I'm having a little bit of trouble recalling exactly which role General Burke's actor. It's been a very long time since Ninja Storm.
I think he's just reacting to the frosting fight, though.
But as I said earlier, the style of humor they went for with Ben and Betty this time was fine. This is perfectly acceptable. It is genuine Bulk and Skull style humor through the lens of their more well-meaning characters. That is fine.
Mark Hamill once
said
said
little cheesy and
that George Lucas wrote unrealistic dialogue, so he just read the lines as incredulous and natural as they sounded. I think he means unnatural.
I assume as natural as he could.
They haven't said Tronics since last week. That's right, they didn't. I yelled Tronics, but they never yelled Tronics.
That's fair. I mean, they don't need to yell it every single time.
Honestly,
but this was a solid episode.
It was.
We're getting some good stuff right now out of Beast Morphers. I'm quite pleased with how this season has been shaping up. Like I said before, it's solidly on par with Dino Charge.
Tronics.
This is more, Disney level season, and less what we got for the most part on Neo Saban. Like, out of this is again easily one of the best seasons out of the out of this decade. Obviously, RPM was last decade. RPM was a cut above. But I'd say that this is one of the top two.
Okay, last decade, but not a decade ago.
Yeah, of this decade. RPM was a decade ago.
What? No, it wasn't 10 years ago.
What year is it?
2019.
What year was RPM?
I have no idea.
Guess.
If you say 2009, I'm going to start hyperventilating again.
Why?
Because that would make us very old.
Hun, we've been together for over 13 years. RPM came out after we were done in college, but not by much.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
He was apparently a businessman in Ninja Storm and did 3 voices that season.
That sounds about right. I was trying to remember what episode he appeared in as a businessman.
Kisaragi, I absolutely agree that the slapstick in this season is much better than the slapstick in last season.
Yes.
Because cakes and frosting and things falling on people is indeed a higher brow form of slapstick than repeated fart jokes.
Well, yeah, those are always bad. But, I say always. I'd say those are generally, I'm not a fan. But more so it's that I like they are decided to go for actual slapstick in this episode instead of cartoon-style humor, because the cartoon-style humor just feels weird with physical people. It doesn't really play right. Whereas the whole farcical nature of dealing with the cakes, that's just...
Sat in a cake, dropped a cake, got a cake pushed over by a police officer.
They handled it well because it was they used it as a through line, not just as random bookends that were disconnected to everything else. It was demonstrating the unintended consequences of Devin's actions in a mild, but still meaningful way.
Yes.
And it demonstrated good blocking. Like, we had fake-outs on each cake
about
fail.
how it was going to get failed.
Like, the robber went through, but he saved it. But then the cop knocked it in.
Right.
That's a classic fake-out that works.
He saved it from Devin, then his sister sat in the cake.
Exactly.
We're all like, oh, they're going to mess it up with frosting, except for I wasn't going to fall for that one.
Like,
I was like, the frosting's going to... I thought they were going to squeeze the bag too hard and get it in his own face, but he got it in his dad's face.
Yep. And it still worked.
The obviously cardboard cake from episode 7, the Beast Butt episode.
Yeah.
That was very cardboard, you're right.
But yeah, that's how you can properly incorporate the slapstick humor in a way that fits with the episode. It was still a little bit, oh, this is what's happening, but it was at least, it felt more appropriate to the characters and to the universe of the show.
This MacBook is begging to update to Mojave.
Yeah, it's always asking to do that.
But Mojave isn't even the most recent one anymore. Now this Catalina.
Okay.
It's so weird.
It's a school laptop, and updating them too soon leads to all sorts of glitches.
Oh, don't update it.
Obviously,
no. But it's just interesting to me that it's trying to push Mojave on you instead of Catalina.
But it goes hand in hand with what I pointed out with the episode where Roxy was messing with what was it? Digital Deception, where Roxy was messing with Ravi on Valentine's Day. And we had the bookends with the silly bee stuff. And I pointed out that it really didn't play because it didn't connect
there was
to
no through line.
anything. And the way that it could have worked is if they had made it a through line happening in the background.
Like the snake story.
And then the whole thing where Ravi stole the neuralizer? Not neuralizer. Whatever it was called. I'm blanking on the name of the device at the moment. But, what is the power running low? Or?
No, I think I just made it fall.
Oh, the power for this one. Okay. But
I knocked the power cable out of the computer we're streaming off of. Sorry.
But when Nate just walked away and then Ravi just clearly took it and put it in his bag while Nate was turned away, and it was like, Nate, how did you not even remotely notice that happening? Whereas if they had
neural aligner.
It was neural aligner? Okay. I wanted to say that, but I wasn't sure, partially because that has nothing to do with what it actually really ended up being.
Good night, Vac. Thanks for looking out for spoilers for us.
Thanks, Vac. Have a good night.
The chat says neural aligner. I'm not sure.
No, I thought that was what it was. I just wasn't 100% sure off the top of my head. But if we had had the through line going on with Ben and Betty and the bee, them causing chaos in the hallway trying to chase down that bee would have created a suitable distraction for Nate to be looking away from the neural aligner, and it would have felt less contrived, and their comedy would have felt more
integrated
into the story. Exactly. Okay, so it was tongue-in-cheek. Okay, that was the episode where Dustin was using his ranger powers to fight crime, wasn't it? Where he, like, stopped a robbery?
Catching a thief was not exactly selfish.
Yeah. That's fitting, considering General Burke's actor happened to be in this episode as well, where Devin stopped a thief.
And it was presented as selfish.
And I don't think that it was so much that it was selfish, but it was an indication of his aggressive behavior going too far. I think that was handled in a way where it was just like, dude, you're being a little crazy right now. He's like, what? I don't get it. As he's holding a car over his head.
You handle gigadrones. I handle criminals.
And it's nice that they addressed that, because that is something where they usually don't in Power Rangers. There were a lot of elements of this episode that were really nice.
Yeah, and actually, as I said at the time, that is a reasonable distinction to make.
Yeah. It's a disproportionate use of force, which again is something that should be recognized as a bad thing. Regardless of if it's a criminal or not, disproportionate use of force is a bad thing.
Davino is back.
Hey! Welcome back.
It may not be a violation of the Zordon rule of using power for personal gain, but it's probably a violation of the escalation rule to use your powers on humans.
Definitely. Never escalate a battle unless
using morphed
you're
powers on a human that cannot morph and is not morphed and is not using any kind of monster tech is an escalation.
Oh, and yes, Olivia, I'm totally down for Lovecraftian Power Rangers villains. I mean, yes. Optimus from Mystic Force was pretty Lovecraftian in and of himself. But yeah, I like a lot of elements of it. I think I may have actually liked... A lot of people have been saying that episode 14 from last week, Sound and Fury, was the best episode of the season. But this one's right on par. I think I may have liked this one better. Just because I felt like the drama was a bit stronger. Mm-hmm. And Megan's character was a bit overplayed. And there were a few little disconnected elements to it. It was still a strong episode, and this was as well. This episode and, the episode with Devin and his dad was very good, taking care of business. The episode where I think Real Steel was also a very strong episode. We've had a number of quite strong episodes this season.
I just realized why it's a good battle force.
Oh, yeah, because of the Go Busters logo.
Ghostbusters.
Exactly. Just like we had Grid Defense Department.
It looks like a bee.
Talk to the graphics design department. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what the act breaks were for last week.
Oh, you missed it, Dyron. We haven't really had much time for editing this week.
I'm still going
it's the last week
try for like Thanksgiving time ish. I'm aiming for that. That's been basically my expectation since the school year started, that if at best I can maybe pull off Thanksgiving. It's just been nonstop work has been the problem. I have been...
Anyone who says that it's oh so great that teachers get the summer off does not realize just how much time teachers spend working when they get home every day.
I mean, it is great that we get the summer off, but the
also,
rest of the year is just brutal.
I mean, they say we have too much homework for kids these days, which we do. But
teachers...
Even more for teachers!
Teachers have to deal with all of the homework multiplied by the number of students. True, we can move faster through an individual homework faster than a student can work through an individual homework, but we cannot move faster through 30 homeworks faster than a student can work through an individual homework. It's a lot of homework. I teach physics, math, and I co-teach robotics. So I keep pretty busy.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what else from this episode. The fight between Devin and Ravi was great. I felt like they did draw things out a little bit going into the second act break, and Devin snatching back the Fury Crystal was a little too easy because it was just like, oh, now I got it.
Got it.
That was
too easy.
That was a little bit of a cheap move there.
Joseph wants to know if teaching is fun.
It is, but not always. As can be the case with many things. I do like teaching. It's just often overwhelming. It takes a lot of work, both inside and outside the classroom.
All those students counting on you.
And it can be very difficult to manage a classroom well. Like, I enjoy helping people understand things. I try to add a level of theatricality to my classes as best I can.
To make them entertaining.
But just maintaining engagement with a large group of people who aren't necessarily inherently interested in the subject is very much a challenge. Have a good night, Spencer.
Yeah, it can be rough when the students don't actually feel like doing
learning. And, I can only do so much to make sure that homework gets done outside of class. So it's a challenge. Yeah, high school, because it's physics and math. So I teach, and robotics as well. So it's 14 to 17. Class, standard high school ages. Conversations in context involving secret identities.
Ooh.
That could be interesting. That could be potentially tied into something along the lines of, I don't know, maybe anonymity on the internet or something like that.
Oh, that would be a really good one, because so many people are so different in real life and on the internet.
Yeah. That said, it's very much a different...
but especially those people who have anonymity. I mean, I know that at this point, I don't really have internet anonymity.
Right.
I go by the same handle everywhere, and I'm on YouTube.
Yeah, same.
So everything I say on the internet, I'm responsible for. So I'm pretty much the same on the internet as in real life.
Yeah, if anything, I try to conduct myself better on the internet.
Yeah, because the internet is forever.
Because, if I'm having a casual conversation with an individual, it's one thing. If I am putting myself out there in front of the world, which the internet is...
We conduct ourselves better on here, but we're also talking about even just being in even when you're just in chitty chat with your friends.
Yeah.
In the DMs. Even the DMs are forever and can be screenshotted.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
oh, we don't say what school.
I don't put anything out on the internet that I don't feel comfortable with the rest of the world being aware of. Like...
But, then again, there are lots of people who have handles that don't correspond with their real life. There are tons of people on, for example, Tumblr, who have a Tumblr, and their friends and family don't know which one's theirs.
Right.
Which leads them to a level of anonymity that they don't have in real life. I mean, how many fan fiction authors out there write fan fiction and they don't tell their family or their friends because they don't want their friends to read what's theirs. They don't tell their friends what their handle is.
Like, I don't know if I'd want, like, every private messaging conversation publicized or anything, but I consider, you know, a message between individuals to be private.
Individuals is supposed to be private, but...
Like, you know, when
sometimes people betray you.
When we message back and forth, we talk about things that are, you know, personal to us.
Yeah, but we're married.
Yeah. That sort of stuff isn't stuff I would necessarily put out there because, you know, conversations
if you get
like
into the
that
DMs with, like, somebody who is not me, then you still have to be careful because you don't know if that person's going to screenshot them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there should be have any of the students ever found his channel? Not at this school.
Not at this school, at my old school, yes. But right now I'm just sort of playing the game of seeing how long it takes for them to find out. Because I imagine that eventually they'll find out that I do YouTube.
The longer before they do figure that out, the better.
It's really like, I'm fairly neutral about them knowing. Yeah, it's just a part of who I am. If they find out, cool. I'm just curious to see how long it'll take for them to find out on their own. I don't feel like I need to give them any clues on that front.
But yes, at your old school, definitely...
Yeah, they found out.
They found out, and you did get razzed about it, so...
Just a little bit. But it was never really a major thing. The fact that I'm, you know, an adult who clearly spends a lot of his time focused on Power Rangers can be a point of razzing. And so I think it's best that they get to know me outside of that context first, as a teacher, before they get to know me more as a person.
Joseph, we don't share that. Sorry. I'll type it out just in case, because I've answered that question twice already.
Well, I know there's a delay on things. But yeah, among other things, we don't share our address. We don't share, like, our address, private phone numbers, where we work. Those aren't things we talk about on the internet. The only people who we share that with are people who we know in direct interaction anyway, or personally or closely.
As far as sharing what we, where we live or what we do, we live in New York.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big place.
There's 21 million people.
We live in New York and not in the city, upstate. And Jake is a teacher, and I work in IT.
Yeah.
In a hospital.
I'm like, if you're really determined to figure out, where we live or where we work, I'm sure you could. Just that's a little bit of
creepy.
I was going to say overstepping of boundaries. Is the way that I feel on things. But I don't think
Power Rangers in general seems to have a no kissing rule. I don't think that's a Nickelodeon thing. That just seems to be a Power Rangers thing.
I mean,
we've had a little kiss since like MMPR.
Well, we've gotten a little pecks on cheek from like Calvin and Haley.
Didn't Tommy and Kimberly have a lip peck or something once? And
Tommy and Kimberly kissed twice.
Yeah.
Like full on regular kiss. When they first agreed to go out together at the end of Green No More, or The Green Candle, Part 2. And then...
What planet do we live on?
And then in actually that Christmas episode we talked about before, I'm Dreaming of a White Ranger, they kissed under the mistletoe.
Sorry, rotisserie, that's a bit too much information. I can tell you that we do live in the Sol system, however.
Yeah.
We are orbiting the star known as Sol.
we do have some romances going on this season, so and last season as well, and the season before. The Chiplin seasons thus far over the last 6 years have not been shying away from there being Ranger romances. They just seem to still be holding fast to that no kissing on the lips rule. Kissing on the cheek seems to be okay right now.
Yes.
We get the I really, really like you, or I like you.
I like you. That was adorable.
Which is cute.
But the thing of it is, I mean,
yeah,
I like you
kids.
is the thing that people say even when they're not kids necessarily.
That's true.
Because remember, these guys, they're adults. They're older than high school age, but they tend to be more around college age. They seem to be. In their late teens.
I'm curious where
like
things...
19, 20. And I could see myself still saying like back in college.
That's fair. I'm curious to see where things go with Zoe and Nate.
Which is not addressed at all this episode.
That's true, but that's because it wasn't focused on them.
Right.
And so there was no reason to. It was very much focused on Devin's reaction to the Fury Cell. And I really liked they continued that from last week. And they also continued with the Beast Powers thing. Like, this felt like, okay, we are hitting sort of the culmination of a plot thread, and I really like that.
Oh, there's two of them now, Chris? I knew they had one.
Well, the Solar Ranger in the comics.
What? No, Chris was talking about the LGBT couples on the Loud House.
Oh, on the Loud House.
There's
okay.
two now, not just one.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that. Yeah, Nate and Zoe are quite cute. And I find it interesting
two
that...
Two LGBT characters in Power Rangers, but not in the show. So what, are they in the comics?
Yes.
Okay.
I find it interesting that, that the Nate and Zoe liking each other, they have mutually expressed that to each other at this stage. Because that's pretty early for them to actually be expressing that, which suggests that we are going to be seeing an actual relationship form. Much like we had that relationship for, with Tyler and Shelby, it took the entire 2 seasons for them to get together. With Haley and Calvin, they were just together the entire 2 seasons. Here, with Nate and Zoe, we seem to be seeing them realize they like each other across the course of the first season, so maybe they will be a full-on couple during the second season.
No rotisserie.
And that's a nice progression we haven't really gotten in a long time. We usually get these little teases that never really go anywhere, but they seem to be taking this attraction as a bit more seriously than they have in past seasons.
Yeah.
I
love the genuine awkwardness with which they address it, and she's just like...
Yeah. But, you knew that, oh, man, no, his name just blanked out of my head.
Nate?
No.
Previous season?
Yes. Black Ranger from RPM. His name just dropped out of my head.
Dustin?
No. That's Yellow Ranger from... Why does his name just drop out of my head?
Oh my god, it dropped out of mine too.
Yeah, I know. I'm remembering everybody else's name right now, and his name just dropped out of my head.
Even though you are clearly unstable and here on a work release program, you... See, that should have triggered it for me. And it
Yeah, what is happening right now? It's not... It's with a D. Dylan, thank you, Chris. Thank
Dylan!
You. Man, I'm like, it's not Devin. It's not Dustin. It's not Darwin. What is it? Dylan, thank you. Dylan's name fell out of my head just now. But yes, with Dylan and Summer, you knew there was attraction from the beginning, but also that they were never really going to progress outside of I care about you too.
Well, especially since Dylan is so emotionally stunted.
Right. And, with Jungle Fury, you had Theo and Lily, but that was really barely there, and then they just decided to go for it in the finale.
Is so emotionally stunted. Why are all the boys in love with the Chipper Yellow Rangers so emotionally stunted?
I don't know.
Actually, that's not true, because Nate is not emotionally stunted.
Yeah.
He's just kind of a baby.
Just a little bit.
He's very young and nervous.
And then with Trent and Kira...
Kisaragi wants to remind you that it's been 63 minutes.
The camera has enough space, but thank you. With Trent and Kira, that, again, it was clear from the beginning, but then they backed off it. With, Blake and Tori, clear from the beginning, they just kind of kept it there in the background, but didn't really do anything with it.
Jake and Gia, she didn't like him.
Until she decides she did. Like, there'll be the whole, they can't flat out say how they feel and want and express a desire to progress the relationship.
But she actually...
Generally until the end of the season.
But Zoe did.
That's what makes that significant. It's the first time in a long time that we've had something like that. Like, we had, Jen and Wes fall in love, but that was a very complex relationship where she was getting over Alex.
Thank you for self-censoring.
So, this is, I'd say, arguably the first time that we've had two Rangers express this sort of mutual attraction and desire for a relationship together.
This early in the season.
Really, I'd say since...
Sierra said...
Since Tommy and Kimberly.
That she had to fight the producers to have her tiny little smooch in the finale.
That's so ridiculous. But yeah, I think...
I mean, in RPM, all we got was an arm over her shoulder.
That's true, but it was still super cute.
It was. Because she is so emotionally stunted.
They're always emotionally stunted. But, Tommy and Kimberly, there was the mutual attraction.
Tommy and Kimberly got to kiss.
Then they got to kiss in, episode 32-ish. And then we didn't really see Tommy much for the next couple episodes, but whenever him and Kimberly were together, it was clear they were together.
Nate is 15 and Zoe is 18.
I don't know if he's 15 or 16. They haven't really expressed what his...
I'd be a lot more comfortable with this if he was 16.
They haven't actually said their actual ages. And I don't think they're necessarily going to go there.
It's so true. Kay called him Ziggy, and that's the same as I love you.
That's fair.
It's true.
So I am curious to see if we...
I'd be more comfortable if Nate was around 16, because 15 to 18 is playing awfully close to the line with the Romeo and Juliet laws.
Yeah, very much so.
I mean, it is just inside the allowances. Most places, there's a 3-year close-in-age exception for things. Yeah. But 15 to 18 is so close to the edge.
I'm imagining more like a 16, 17.
Yeah.
But, again, they would have to...
She's graduated high school, so she's probably 18.
That's fair.
Also, she's employed.
Well, we'd have to see where they go with that.
Because I was 17 when I graduated high school, but I seem to remember something about when you're under 18, to get a job, you need a card from your school, and it's this whole rigmarole.
Yeah.
She had a full-time job, so...
Right. So there's... anyway, all that aside...
Jen and Wes could have been number one if they had gotten a kiss.
Right.
Says Devious Rage.
Well, I'm just saying, this is, I think, the first time since the first season that we've had two Rangers express that attraction to each other this early in a season and not have it just draw out until the end of the season or already be a thing at the start of the season. So that's super interesting. And I really want to see where they go with that. And I want to see if the Fury Cell shards being thrown at Roxy do lead to something with her getting the power-up. And then, I imagine Blaze gets the Beast Powers power-up. They're probably going to have a competition between the two next episode to see who gets it. And I imagine Blaze getting it at the last minute. But then Roxy still gets the power-up because of the Fury Cells.
That could be.
And then that would probably lead to their evolved forms, and that would probably lead us into the finale for the season. I would expect. That's where I figure things are going, but I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong. But overall, it's been a nice progression, and this episode did a good job of upping the stakes, which I always appreciate.
All right.
So we've probably gone on far too long already.
We gotta wrap this up. We do have one last question from the chat here,
Yes.
and that is, what mythological creature would you like to see as a Minosaur? Have we had a Kappa yet?
I don't think we've had a Kappa yet.
I'm always a big fan of the Kappas.
I
I like it when they have water on their head and they bow and it falls out.
We haven't had. I don't think we've had a dragon yet either. I think a werewolf.
So Jake would like to see. We had a werewolf.
No, we had Cerberus.
Oh, we had a Cerberus.
We haven't had a werewolf.
Okay, so Jake would like to see a werewolf, and I would like to see a Kappa.
Yeah.
And that answers that.
Maybe some sort of zombie threat or something something where it's sort of classic American monster that spreads its monstrousness.
A Kelpie and a Kappa are two different things.
That's true.
A Kelpie is a horse kind of thing that comes out of the water and does things. A Kappa is kind of more of a ogreish toad kind of thing with a bowl of water on its head. You trick it into
it's very
bowing.
turtley.
Yeah.
But I do think that something based off an American monster that has a tendency to spread its monstrousness could make for a fun Minosaur. Like, a werewolf, vampire, zombie, something like that.
A contagious
Exactly.
monster.
We've already had a mummy.
Dora Franken
Although
says
that's
hi.
technically...
I'm not sure who that is.
That's the Frankenstein monster from Ranger. So that got adapted into the first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Halloween special, Life's a Masquerade.
The chat. Dora Franken says hi.
Halloween episode, yes. Alright, so...
Alright then. So, now that we've answered all the questions...
So, I think now's a good time to wrap up. So, I don't believe there's a new Re-Soldier this week, I heard.
Well, then I guess we'll see them again next week.
If there's not, we're probably not going to do a bonus.
We're going to skip the week so that Jay can edit.
So that I can edit and grade, because next week's the end of the quarter. So, we very well might not end up having a Re-Soldier live reaction this week if there's no new Re-Soldier
if there's no new episode, we won't have an episode that day either.
Alright.
Alright.
But
we will be back here next week.
Now, I do want to say, I know that I have heard that the Q Ranger versus Lupat is out, but that will probably save for hiatus.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
So, that being said, yes, we will be back next week for more
7 p.m.
Eastern Time for more Power Rangers Beast Morphers live reactions. So, until then, farewell, Ranger fans, and let the power protect you. With Fury Mode, he was burning the candle at both ends.